Hello and welcome to the Fighting Spirit Podcast. As always, I'm Jason, and I'm here to bring you your fight picks for UFC 240, where Max Blessed Holloway would take on Frankie the Answer Edgar in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. This is going to be for the Featherweight Championship. It's a good card overall. We have all the fights crunched. It's taking place in the 10th Island, as Max Holloway says. Let's get into it, though. Here's the show. All right, in our main event, we are going to have, like I said, Max Blessed Holloway take on Frankie the Answer Edgar for that featherweight strap, and it's going to be an interesting contest, but ultimately I see Max Holloway taking it home here because I think he's the better fighter in basically every way except for grappling, and he's got that trump card. He's got that amazing grappling defense, that amazing takedown defense. I don't think Frankie Edgar is going to be able to offer many answers to the Holloway game. Let's look at Holloway. He's super rangy. He's one of the best boxers. He's probably the best 145er. I mean, he creams Aldo's clock twice in a row, right? Frankie Edgar has a hard time beating Aldo. In fact, he never has, right? He's lost to him on 2 occasions. He's always kind of a bridesmaid, never a bride at the featherweight, weight class. And I think Holloway is going to be able to dismantle him. He's going to be able to stuff his takedowns. He's going to be able to outbox him. And then, when we look at Edgar, if he doesn't get takedowns, he has a really hard time winning. He has almost as many submissions as he does knockouts. When I look at Holloway, he's very knockout heavy with his 10 wins via knockout and his 2 submissions. He likes to get it done on the feet when he can. And I think Frankie Edgar is going to ultimately have no answers here for Holloway. Crazier things have happened, though, right? If he can score takedowns, he can ground and pound Holloway, he could potentially defeat him, but who's been able to do that to him? No one. No one's been able to take Holloway down recently. Look at what Ortega did to him. A guy with fairly competent boxing and amazing technical skills on the ground, wasn't able to get this thing to the mat once. Edgar, a little more of a wrestler, better takedown game, but I still don't think he's going to be able to get Holloway to the mat. I just don't see it happening. I don't think he gets it done here. We're picking Blessed Holloway. It is what it is, and he's going to pick up a W on the 10th Island. In our co-main, we have Cyborg taking on Felicia Phenom Spencer in what will be an amazing matchup because I must be taking crazy pills because I have Felicia Spencer picked here. I'm not sure how it's actually going to play out, but let's talk about it. So when we look at just, punching volume versus, how often people get struck, these fighters are fairly equal. Granted, Cyborg, I think, has better power, 17 KOs over 20 wins. Spencer, she hasn't been tested much, right? She has the 1 KO over 7 wins, but I think she has something here. I think the numbers are going to shake out. She has that great victory over Megan Anderson, and Megan Anderson didn't perform great in the UFC, but let's say Spencer can somehow manage to get this thing to the mat and manage to weather the storm. I think she could potentially get a submission here. She has 4 over her 7 wins. I think she's a very good fighter, and I don't know what state Cyborg's in. Cyborg, after that loss to Amanda Nunes, not doing potentially very good mentally, maybe a loss of confidence. This is a good opportunity for a young fighter to take on a salty, gritty veteran that may doubt themselves in this 145-pound division. So I think Felicia Spencer could potentially get it done here. I think she has good output. I think she doesn't get hit very much. And I think if it has to become a grappling contest, Spencer has the edge. However, Cyborg got that crazy power. This thing could be done in under a minute. And I'm not on the best record right now of calling fights, but let's face facts. I got to take a chance on this one. I'm calling Felicia Spencer is what the numbers say on the new metric, and so we're picking her in the co-main. Felicia Spencer, Phenom Spencer. All right, in our next matchup, we have a very solid event here. Jeff Hands of Steel O'Neal take on Nico the Hybrid Price. Now, I'll be the first to tell you, I actually like Nico the Hybrid Price. However, the numbers are not shaking out for him in this metric. He gets hit way too much. He absorbs a lot of damage. And, he honestly shouldn't even be where he is right now. One of those KOs against Randy Brown was via hammer fist in a fight that looked like he was losing. He just managed to, punch from the bottom and nail great hammer fist. His win against Tim Means, though, was legit. Did get a great knockout there. But I think Jeff Neal is just a smarter fighter. I think he has more to throw out than he absorbs. He has great wins over Frank Camacho, Brian Carmozzi, Bilal Muhammad. I think this guy has the potential, and he has a little bit of grappling experience with his 2 submissions. He does score a few takedowns. Price, not so much of a takedown heavy fighter himself, so I think it's fairly even there. But honestly, I think Jeff Neal is the better striker here. I think he has the potential to make Nico Price pay because he does like to eat a few on the chin to get going. We are picking hands of steel Neal in this event. In our next contest, this is going to be a very, very good one. I say this about a lot of fights, but this one will be. We have Olivier Aubin Mercier taking on Armen Taksarganov, and this is going to be a great fight. So both fighters coming off of losses here, but I want to point out that Armen's debut in the UFC was against Islam Makhachev, probably potentially one of the best 155ers, at least maybe at the unproven prospect level right now. And Armen took him to, I thought, a deep water pace, and it turns out he just couldn't swim in the deep waters as well as Islam and ended up being defeated. But there was a time there where I thought Armen could have defeated Islam and taken a win in Russia. Now, it didn't play out that way, but he's a very good fighter. When you look at Mercier, he's okay, right? He's got wins over Anthony Rocco Martin, but he's on a recent slide. He lost to Alexander Hernandez. He lost to Gilbert Burns via decision, and I'm not sure he's the best fighter out there. He does like to grapple, and that could be a problem. So he's got 1 KO over his 8 submissions, and Armen has 5 KOs and 5 submissions, but Armen is a high-level wrestler, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to impose that will on him. Aubin Mercier, though, does train at TriStar. He has that Firas Zahabi mindset, that game plan going into it, so he does have that slight edge here, I think. But ultimately, I think the better wrestler here is going to get it done. I see this being a bit of a grappling contest, and that's where I think Armen has the edge here. I think we're going to see him pick up the W. So we're picking Armen Taksarganov in this event. In our next matchup, we're going to have Marc-Andre Barrier, Power Bar, taking on Christoph Jocko. And this is going to be a pretty interesting fight at middleweight. So both these guys, very heavy in the hands, like to get to work with, their fists as much as possible. Don't really like to take it to the mat too much. We've got Jocko, the only submission between these two, over his 20 wins and his 24 fights overall. When I look at these guys' numbers, I see it mostly playing out on the feet, like I said, but I think Jocko is just better. I think he just doesn't get hit as much. I think he's smarter, higher fight IQ, and I also really like his team. He is a top teamer, and that is some high quality, high caliber stuff. When I look over at Power Bar, he is the hometown. He's from Quebec. They're fighting Edmonton. It's not exactly the hometown, but he is Canadian, but I don't think he's going to get it done here. It's not necessarily his home crowd. He's French-Canadian. I'm picking the pole in Canada. We're picking up Christoph Jocko for the W. In our next matchup, it's going to be at ladies flyweight, where Alexis Alligator Davis is going to be taking Viviane Araújo in a very good matchup. So we have kind of an older, stalwart fighter in Alexis Davis taking on a new up-and-comer, Araújo, who is just setting the charts on fire here. She has great wins over Talita Bernardo, Emi Fungiano, Akiyama Miura. She just has very good wins here. She does have a loss to Sarah Frota. That is her only loss. Let's just bear that in mind, who is also a very good fighter. But I think she looks very good for this stage of the game. 7 wins, 3 KOs, 4 submissions. Does not see this judge's scorecard if possible. She likes to put it away early. She likes to get it done. I think she's a better fighter here. When I look at the numbers, I think that she just gets hit less. She just puts out more output, and I like her takedown. I like her submission game a little more than Davis. Davis does have 8 submissions over 19 wins, but I just think that MMA has moved on a little bit. Davis is a little bit older fighter. Viviane's a little bit younger, a little bit newer to the sport, and I think she has the skills to pay the bills. I see her getting it done in Alberta. In our next contest, this one is going to be tough to call because it is a debuting fight here, but we're going to have Yoshinori Horry, the rising star, taking on Hakeem Dawodu, the Mean. Or you know what, let's do it this way. Mean Hakeem. That's his fight name. Mean Hakeem. Not anything else. That's it right there. All right, let's talk about the limited information we have here. So we got a 9-1 fighter going up against an 8-1 fighter. Done a whole lot to go off here. Hakeem does look good, though. He obviously has fought in the UFC. He has yet to take a loss. Actually, no, I'm lying. He did have a loss in his UFC debut, but he's gotten back on track with wins over Kyle Bochniak and Austin Arnett. So I think he is settled in, and he's starting to, find his rhythm and his feet in the UFC. We'll look over at Yoshinori. He's got okay fight record. He's been fighting in the Pancrase organization. He has some good first-round knockouts in his last 2 appearances. So, the guy definitely has some talent. But Hakeem, or Mean Hakeem, does look good. I think he's a slightly better fighter here. I'm picking the experience over the youth. So we're picking Mean Hakeem in this matchup. In our next matchup taking place at featherweight, we're going to have Gavin Governor Tucker. Gavin the Governor. All right, Arnold, I guess, taking on Sung Woo Choi in what should be an interesting matchup. So both fighters coming off of losses here. Not too much experience in the UFC either. We have Sung Woo Choi losing in his UFC debut against Musalov Evilov, where Orim fought Olenek, that was in the Moscow, Russia card. And then over here, we got Gavin, or the Governor, losing to Rick Glenn in his last outing via unanimous decision. We look at the numbers, though. I think that both these guys do take a lot on the chin, but I think Sung Woo Choi has taken just a little bit less. I also think that they have basically equal grappling game, but Woo has such a crazy reach advantage. The guy has an 8-inch reach advantage over Gavin Tucker. So Gavin's going to have to cover distance. He's going to have to get inside. He's going to have to put in a lot of pressure to overcome that 8-inch jab that's going to be coming at his face over and over and over again. So I don't know if he's going to be able to hang with that. I'm not picking Gavin Tucker in this one. We have the Korean Sung Woo Choi in Alberta. The flyweight division is not dead for men's because we're going to have Devison Figueredo take on one of my favorite rising stars at men's flyweight is Alexandre the Cannibal Pantoja, and what should be a great matchup. So if you can't tell by what I just said, I'm definitely picking Pantoja here. I think he has the better striking ability. I think he's on par in the grappling game. I think he's just a little bit better overall. The guy's on a tear right now. Great win over Wilson Reese via TKO in his last outing back in April. Whereas look at Devison, he lost to Formiga, who was dismantled by Benavides, and ultimately I don't think Figueredo is going to be able to hang. I think that Pantoja is a guy that could fight eventually for the championship in this kind of depleted 125-pound division. I think the guy looks great. I think his boxing is good. I think his striking or kickboxing is good. I think his grappling is good. Is it Triple C Cejudo level shit? I don't know about that. He couldn't, potentially not be quite at that level yet. But the dude's only 29 years of age. He only has a couple of fights in the UFC, and a couple. It's more like 1, 2, 3. He's got like 6 fights in the UFC, so a couple maybe. I'm over exaggerating here, but I like Pantoja. I think he's going to get it done. We are picking him in Edmonton. In our next matchup at ladies flyweight, we're going to have Jillian Robertson taking on Sarah Frota in what should be a great matchup. So I just talked about Frota a few moments ago. She had defeated our earlier fighter, and I think she's going to be able to defeat another one here. So we have Jillian Robertson, is an American top teamer, but I don't think she has quite the talent. When you look at the numbers Frota is putting out there, she is just a way superior striker. I don't want to, shortchange Jillian Robertson's submission game, though. She does have 5 submissions over 6 wins. That's the only way she's getting it done, except for going to the judge's decision. But I think that Frota's takedown defense has looked at least okay. If she could turn it into a scramble fight, keep it on the feet, don't get held down, I think she can definitely win this thing standing. She has a 6-inch reach advantage, so if she can stay long, go in and outside of the pocket at will, prevent the takedowns, I think she picks up another W here in this very competitive ladies division. So we are picking Sarah Frota in this matchup. All right, this next one is kind of a tough one to call, but we got Eric Koch, the Phoenix, taking on Kyle Guns Up Stewart. I do love that fight name. That is solid, but unfortunately, we're going to have to pick against him. We're picking the Rising Phoenix. This guy needs to rise from the ashes. He has losses to Bobby Green and Clay Guida. His last win was in 2016 against Shane Campbell. This guy needs a W. He is a Rufus Sport guy. He does train high caliber. Look over at Guns Up Stewart. Not necessarily the best fight camps, but these are both good fighters. 15-6 for Koch. Kyle Stewart, guns up. He's coming in at 11-2, 4 KOs over 3 submissions, and Koch basically the same on the KOs, but 8 submissions over his 15 wins. And I think that the Phoenix is going to be able to get it done here. Look at the numbers. Both these guys do absorb a lot of damage before they're actually able to get it off. But I think Stewart's going to prove to be the little bit worse competitor there. I think he's going to absorb more shots from Koch, and I think if Koch wants to put it on the mat, he's going to be able to. He has very good, takedown offense, and Stewart does have good takedown defense, but we've seen, the Phoenix do it before. He has those 8 submissions. I think he can do it again. His last win was via rear naked choke. If he can make it his kind of matchup, I think he can get the W here. So we are picking Eric Koch, the Phoenix. In our next matchup, we got some big boys at heavyweight. So we got one guy with kind of a dad bod, and one dude looks like he basically is a strong man. He's throwing kegs up over pole vaults, and Giacomo Lemos. And I think, honestly, he's going to get the win here. He guy's 6-0. He's got 5 KOs over his with 6 wins, 1 submission. And Tanner, I mean, he does have more experience, but he hasn't fought in the UFC yet. Neither one of these guys have. And I got to go with the better built guy here. I mean, the guy just built like a brick shithouse. He definitely looks like he could kick Tanner, dad bod's ass here. Now, at the high levels, guys like DC and stuff prove this to not be an important factor at all. But, Tanner training out of Shaved Bears MMA, I think has no chance against the Giacomo Lemos, the Brazilian fighter here. I got to pick him in his debut. I think he's getting it done, and I think he's getting an early KO, let's be honest. You are picking Giacomo Lemos in Alberta. So let's go over it one more time, shall we? So for our UFC 240 fight calls, we are going to have Holloway, Spencer, Neal, Tarksuran, Armin, the guy that fought Islam. How about that one? Christoph Jocko, Arujo, Dawadu, Choi, Pantoja, Frota, Koch, and Lemos, who I just mentioned, in this matchup. So we are using a new metric. Bear that in mind. If you listen to the retrospective, we're changing the numbers a little bit. It looked good last week. I've been kind of trying to test it out a little bit. We lost our edge. We got to get it back, and I think we're going to do it here. I have good confidence in this. I've said that before, but hey, I got to say it every time. You got to believe in yourself. It starts there, and I think we can get it done. So, all right, so let's move on to housekeeping. You can get in touch with the Fighting Spirit Podcast at fightingspiritpodcast@gmail.com. We also have a Patreon where you can participate in aspects of the show. I put my specialized fight picks on the Patreon, so you'll have access to those. You also could become a producer on the show. You also could just vote on the beer and spirit reviews. We should have one of those coming out either this week or next. I'm kind of sitting on one, kind of deciding on when I want to release it, but we'll get that out to you soon as a bonus episode, which will be very good, and we'll be starting with our new kind of regular bonus episodes in August, so look forward to that as well. Let's try to shoot for better numbers here. Let's try to do it better and, just try to pick up where we left off a few weeks ago over at UFC 239. These fight nights weren't really kind to us. Some things I thought didn't go our way. I called it a fluke the past week, and, maybe that was wrong of me. Maybe I was just being overly confident about it, but I think we can get it done this week. I feel better about this. I mean, hell, Holloway alone has to win this fight, and if Edgar does, it's going to be a huge upset, and hey, those are the things you cannot predict. He doesn't have the numbers to do it. Holloway has proven himself time and time again. The only question is, how badly did Dustin Poirier beat him up in their last outing? I guess that's the only question, and we're going to get it answered on Saturday in Alberta, Canada. So I will talk to you again soon. I will be back with the retrospective, hopefully in the positive side of the predictions. But until I speak with you again, happy fight picking.